Okay. Um, you know, it's funny when I do see, and I know, like things are so systematic and obvious that, like I said before, I'm not a genius. Not to insult myself, not even to be putting myself down, but I understand that uh, they do things that are so systematic and they dumb themselves to the point that you think that at this point, are you like a genius? For being able to see things for what they are, when in reality it's just them having to really dumb themselves down, really pushing you to think in this illogical way, to make you accept this false persona. No, I don't think I'm a genius. Yes, I realize that these people have ways to just dumb themselves down to block out the reality of what they're part of. The truth is just kind of too painful for them because they wanted to do this to me. Some of them have done to so many others, thinking that they're going to go into the escapism of the reality they put together, right? Obviously, that's not going to happen. With the amount of testimonies all around the world, no, I'm glad that I had a chance to be involved in at least some kind of awareness videos or showing that these people do these horrible things globally, and being seen in this video is basically showing that I know that I'm not alone in this thing that they do to people, and they have done this to the most vulnerable people. As much as they try to live in this fantasy, the reality is going to be there. They are in a program that is torturing women and children in the foulest, unbelievable ways. And they want you to accept not only this disturbing manipulation of your thoughts to be yours, those perceptions, those stimulations which have been said by others, but also to vilify you. For me, they even talk about me as a child. When this trash are involved in a program that is doing horrible things to children, they have to exaggerate reality in order to somehow find ways to see them in this light. They try to say, "Oh, we're severe." I just heard somebody yell that. Basically, they just try to find ways to say, "No, we know you were a child, but we're severe." It's like, no, I know you torture children. I know you guys are trying to find a way to make me subscribe to these things. That's why you even have to exaggerate things. You're not severe. You're just trash that torture even children. Are you severe when you torture children? And you see these people, right? These are people I work with at this point. They have nothing to do with me being in this program. But now, as I'm employed, I've been aware all along that these people employed me to involve themselves in this targeting. Who knows if that's the first time? I believe it's the first time, but they just enjoyed this ability to be godlike individuals in the sense that this technology, it's purely technological, it's nothing magical. Maybe you can think of it in a spiritual way in the sense that people can do things, but this is man-made, right? Regardless of this disgusting, almost biblical ways of doing these nasty things to people, those people are human beings. They're not magical beings doing things to you, right? They are just regular people. And I just find myself thankful that I did not involve myself in that kind of level of in this side of things. Listen, these people have so much more going, right? They have families, they're working, they have good, but these same people are in a program where they even suffocate children, do horrible things to infants, cause mass shootings, all these horrible things you can imagine. Like, think of a biblical verse of evilness, right? They involve in that, but they're not evil. They're just trash, weak people who enjoy this opportunity to feel like they're special, to feel God-like people. Weakness, truly. You see them trying to distance them from reality. Can you imagine being in a program where the people that you're involved with are doing horrible things to children, and you're there trying to make somebody believe this disturbing pedophilia things, but time after time after time, this validation that you're going to have to block out a few reality here. Reality that not only this program does this pedophilia type of torture, but actually torture children. in some foul ways. Women, oh my gosh, it's just unbelievable. The facades that they've created to present themselves toward me has been created to others. Women saying, oh, this group of people move next to me, they pretend to be, they present themselves as an organization of goodness, right? This is a woman in Florida who said that. She's saying her words, right? You even hear women saying, there's a lot of females, there's a lot of women doing this to her. What kind of woman would do this? A woman talks about what happens to her on a daily basis, sexually tortured by this technology that is coming from the DARPA entities, those DOD entities. But forget about just that. Even looking outside, when they try to say, no, we're verifying, we're looking if you're a pedophile. When these people, right, now at this point, are very much aware that there is a problem with pedophilia in agencies from DOD, CIA, DARPA, and whatever, all of those, across those intelligence community. I mean, to the extreme point where somebody working there at the Pentagon, working in some kind of DOD office, was shocked by the amount of child porn he would see when they were cleaning up those computers in the government devices. You know what they do to counter that? They say, oh, we're gonna frame you by implanting child porn. Now, this is the world they're in, and they try to make that sound fierce too. They try to make it sound fierce, like they're just some fierceful, strong women, and we're mean for doing that, right? This is the same people working for those entities who are actually pedophiles, downloading child porn on the government devices. Now, you see these people, I'm looking at them, they're going through the scripts. And they try to say, her hand, you try to exaggerate what I did as a child. Going to an exaggeration of what I did when I was a kid in 8th grade, as a middle school, just turned 14 years old. And as I'm like, you are delusional if you think I'm going to let you think of that. In that way, on top of that, try to exaggerate that when I know what you actually do to children. Yes, you part of this program where you think you're going to be like, oh, I have nothing. No, you're in a program that does horrible things to kids. Listen to this torture of a 7-year-old autistic kid. What do you think? What technology you think is doing this? A 7-year-old autistic child being suffocated, gasping for air. And then, of course, sexual torture as always. And she's like, I have nothing to do with that. And I'm listening to her. It's like, yeah, I know. You're trying to block that out. And she was like, oh, let me go pick up my daughter. Because they're doing it for their girls, right? Like the 7-year-old kid was born from some kind of plant or some like the 4-5-year-old Down syndrome children who were like came from the sky, just like the 3-week-old baby that they thought they had just appeared. Like those women cannot have kids, do not have kids. You understand the delusional? The horrible. They think that I'm gonna let them live the fantasy. Your daughter, don't put your daughter in there, please. Just own your own nastiness. Do not put this nasty thing on the job. As a good mother that you are, do not put down your daughter. Don't put that nasty thing. You're doing that for the opportunity that you have. If this is, I'm sure there's a lot of benefits. You enjoy those benefits. Don't say that you're doing this for your children. Listen to this testimony. At the end, I'm going to make sure that you listen to these testimonies when you see these pictures. They're delusional for your daughter. And they do the pedophilia type of torture for your daughter? You think they do this nasty dreams and whatever conditioning for your daughter? I'm not going to let them live that fantasy. Do you know how nasty they force you to think? Disturbing pedophilia ways? They were trying to come up with this investigation, this damn near spectrum-like investigation. Try to find something. I'm not even going to talk about it. It's just too stupid at this point. Let me just waste my energy for something else. And they're like, these people, you guys are Filipinos. You work for entities where there's a bunch of... For your daughter? You force people to think in these disturbing ways. They will force me to look at your daughter in this disgusting... She says daughter. They start stimulating me. You think this is organically happening? For your they are delusional. There's nothing worse when the parents are using their children to find ways to justify these manipulations or this stimulation. Like, do you think I'm going to subscribe? You literally said daughter, and they force me to get stimulations. And they try to escape reality. Listen, I'm not a genius. There's a lot of things I don't know. Right? They use anything to try to make me feel doubtful. I know myself. I'm not a genius. I know. I'm not an idiot at the same time. I find myself smart, but I have my limitations. So when they try to find ways to make me feel doubtful based on some random thing here and there, I'm like, oh God, okay. But one thing is for sure, I can see the actual patterns in your fantasies, your manipulations. I can see the patterns of what you guys do. It doesn't take a genius to see that. You just have to dumb yourself down to not see that a lot. You have to make yourself damn near retarded. Sorry for the language. And it's so obvious. And I'm not going to let you escape that. So whatever other thing you're going to try to make me think of it, and I'm telling you, the way they'll make me think, oh my gosh, you just become like a damn near child, like a damn near like illogical being. Everything can go in your brain and they can have you have a battle on things that has nothing to do with you. Somebody says something, oh, you see, that's what he's saying. Oh, you see? Yo, I was listening to this podcast and they will talk about this guy who actually was allegedly doing some fraudulent things, right? And he says something, I know myself, I know who you guys gonna, and then it's like, you see, just like you. I'm like, oh my gosh, you wanna listen to this woman? There's this target individual. In her testimonial, she said, I know myself, I know my thoughts. I've been me long enough to know those are not my thoughts. Those are not exactly what I'm saying. Because that's the case. Like, you have to know yourself, because they're going to try to change you into something else. And you have to recognize those changes. So if you don't know yourself, if you have doubts about who you are, they're going to manipulate those. So yes, I know myself. I've been me long enough to know who I am. That those thoughts are mine and not mine. You see, they try to even do forced speech to frustrate me, which has been said by others. That's why I'm so validating. That I've been me long enough to know my thoughts, my feelings, my dreams, and all. I know that those are manipulated by these people. And these people are supposed to make you subscribe to these things. So to all my target individuals, just stay strong. You see these people? Listen to the things they have to ignore.
Then said this, I started searching in internet for information about the abuse and the weapons that this psychopaths groups are using on innocent Americans, and I was overwhelmed by the horror stories of the target individuals and what their immediate families are going through, the information about the technology weapons that are used by the government, the agencies including CIA, FBI, NSA, Homeland Security, DOD, DOJ, etc., and mainly, the very well-documented information of the technology in the web, including the well-documented organized stalking and torture run by neighborhoods, sort of speak, settled in neighborhoods, under the sponsored of our government. Mr. Bush, you are not going to tell me that you do not acknowledge all of this corruption happening. You know exactly what's going on. I have joined support groups, sent letters to congressmen, senators, representatives in the government, also have joined international groups of victims where I have sent my testimony of events since my harassment began. Today, since this coward group of slaves realized I'm not changing in the old ways, they decided to get me in any way possible. I learned through other TIs that they've been assaulted sexually, and I realized I wasn't the only one. Then I knew we all get the same thing. Also that some of the TIs stated that they forced her through holograms to see aberrant sexual scenes, that she felt that she was starting likening what she was forced to see every night, that I thought how that could happen, but then I told them that they would never take my will, and since we all know how the psychopaths groups work with what the TI says or does, then they started during the nights to run some kind of beam where suddenly I've been wakened up at 3 o'clock in the mornings and some kind of voice comes and say phrases, sound incomprehensible, and some other times can actually catch what is saying, ITS not my voice, a different voice, and I realized that they are trying to program for me to take it in a way that I won't notice a possible change in my behavior. Of course, this is not new, because one main thing this program is out there is called behavior modification for the undesirable, and that's one of the excuses this groups give for the neighbor TO join, deception. I learned to talk back, in my mind, during the process when I was awakened, and I would say demeaning things, that I cannot repeat it in this blog, you know what I mean. Since they had violated me for so long, I decided to aggravate them with words in my mind. I can hear my own voice. I told them I'm going to make you pay for all of the years of torture that I've taken, and all you are going to hear is aggravation. For every single second of my privacy that you have taken away. From me and my family. Then said this, the slaves began a program of perversion. First was with my dog. I am very playful with my pet, and suddenly one day that I was petting him I felt strange, in the sense of the word. I thought, this is strange, and then afterwards that strange sensation continued. Then in that moment I realized that was impost, so I thought, look at this losers, don't know how to put me down, and they are doing this. So I told them that I know what you are trying to do, and I started laughing, and then I said again out loud, you'll never take my will, ASS, so just to show them that I meant what I said, I kept playing with my dog, and even though that attacks continue, I don't let them get me. Today they continue with the programming of perversion, but this time they are aiming in the use of people, better said young people, also children and homosexuals. When I aggravated them I usually called demeaning names, and one of them is referring to homosexuals. For me all of this slaves are misfits, society haters, scumbags, etc. No, I don't have anything personal against them, homosexuals, but as my way to aggravate the slaves, and since they love to use children for the torture and stalking, street theater etc. Especially teenagers for the stalking at close range with an attitude, they are using them during my sleep in the perversion program, and so you can imagine what the slaves of torture are pretending to do to me.
Feeling me?
Well, in terms of you being a victim.
You mean what I'm feeling?
Yeah, explain a little bit to me how you perceive yourself as being.
I have actual photographs of burns on my body. When I went to my doctor, the response was, how do I know you didn't do that to yourself? How do you even address that? I've passed 2 psychological evaluations. Not one, but 2. The one physician said, you're mentally sound as a bell. He said, I don't have any idea what's going on with you. When I go to sleep, when I go to try to sleep, I feel like I'm being lit up like a Christmas tree. I feel every cell in my body just bouncing out of my body. I can't even describe it. I get electric shock of my rectum. I get electric shock of my nose. I've woken up with burns on the end of my tongue. I've had burns on the palms of both of my hands. I vibrate. I can barely hold a piece of paper without quivering. Does that answer your question?
I'm trying to find what's the source of the...
The source are these exotic weapons. They talk about, in 2977, they talk about the space-based weapons. Basically, in that document, it talks about exotic weapons. That's what we're talking about. And the fact of the matter is, they did complete that global surveillance network. My cousin worked for the Defense Department. She worked on the global mapping of that system. And when I told her what I was going through, all she could say was, you're on your own. Well, I've figured that out. If you would please, I urge you to pass this. I realize you can't enforce it, but if you would pass it, it might give other communities the courage to do the same thing and show our Defense Department we are not the enemy. We are not to be attacked. We are not terrorists. Most of us are defenseless women.
Okay, thank you.
Threaten more sexual assaults. I am currently a speech-language pathologist working in private practice with young children. I had a 7-year-old client who has autism, and she was the most significantly affected of all of my clients. I eventually had to tell this client to go to another clinic, and they used her to threaten the most torture in me as well as their most extreme forms of torture. For several months, she would cry and scream horribly during our therapy sessions despite having a great day at school. This was highly unusual behavior for her, as she usually behaved very well during her therapy sessions and had been making incredible progress on all of her therapy goals. This was used to threaten extreme torture on me, making me scream and cry, etc. They would make the kids act out the kinds of torture that would later be done on me. For example, they would also sometimes make her bite her hand, threatening to make me bite my hands, as they often do. One day, she had a large, severe bite mark on her arm. She has also grabbed her crotch, saying, "Ow," and this was used to threaten me with severe sexual torture. One day, I also observed her gasping for air a few times in the same way that I do when I am being more severely suffocated. The suffocation had been in a mild state for a while up until this point. Many of their torture methods are cyclical in severity. Right after I saw this child being suffocated, then I began to experience very extreme suffocation all day, every day, for about 2 months straight, and that's also when they made it worse when I eat. Then I also work with a 4-year-old little girl with Down syndrome, as well as her 5-year-old sister, who also has Down syndrome. I observed both of these girls suddenly grabbing their genitals in pain and verbalizing, "Ow." I observed this experiencing has been highly sexual in nature and highly perverted, involving many combinations of sensory and motor manipulation of my mind and body, and of the people around me. This includes many different types of zaps to varying degrees to the genitals, butt, anus, and the entire pelvic area. This also includes many kinds of movements, such as the rocking, swaying, jolting, vibrating, and shaking of my entire body or various body parts, specifically in a sexual way. The severe vibration is a highly noxious stimuli and is very intolerable. They sometimes do pulses or throbbing sensations on the genitals too, etc. Referred to as malodorance. This is the alteration of the smell sensation so that I am often made to smell various things, including smoke, burning, dirty diaper, or baby powder, which they sometimes combine with the pedophilia type of torture, including the threat of planted dreams and videos.
It is dramatic. It's somebody trying to end my life. It's somebody trying to end who I am as a person. It's somebody trying to take over my mind, putting thoughts of pedophiles. Like, it's disgusting things. You saw where I was going with that first word. Disgusting things that I don't even want to talk about because it makes me sick. I don't even like those words in my mind. But it is what it is. So I have no choice now but to acknowledge that there are people in my surroundings or whatever they're doing. I don't know how they do it. I don't care. I don't know if it's through weapons. I don't know. I don't care.
A couple of days later, a female said the same thing. I'll get shot in the face. You know, stupid shit like that. But what I really noticed is, with the voices go, it's a bunch of females. You know, and I'm like, bro, really? You're not a woman. What real woman would stalk another female or sit back and allow that to go on? You really think they think it's nothing wrong with them, basically. You know, they call me a retarded bitch and all of this here, but I was top of my class.
V2K, voice to skull, 365, 24/7.
Please become more aware of this crime and those that the crime is being committed against. We need your support and help in ending this crime.
Hello, my name is Wendy Brown. I'm a targeted individual who is living in New Zealand, but my targeting began in California. I'm an American citizen, and the targeting continues in New Zealand. This video in remembrance of Targeted Individual Day, our 3rd annual Targeted Individual Day. And I'm asking that every honest-hearted human being open their eyes to a crime.
Almost all targets are forced to view child pornography in their minds. And vice versa is true.